Hey, good evening, everyone. This is State Representative Brad Halbrook, joined with Representative Adam Nieberg. Hey, Adam, say hi.
Hey, Brad, how you doing?
Good. Looks like you and me tonight, and maybe we've got a special guest here. We'll bring on here momentarily. I'm going to leave him sit in the wings for just a moment. And so, hey, guys, thanks for joining us tonight, live tonight, and hopefully on demand in the future. If you'd like to share and share this and subscribe and follow and all the rest of that things. I got a lot of things going on here this evening. Sorry, I'm a little bit kind of happening. So anyhow, with that, guys, as we dive into the relentless pursuit of truth, logic, and common sense, we got a busy agenda for you this evening. We are going to kind of discuss our Illinois Freedom Caucus legislative agenda. And Adam, I'm going to let you kind of do a little welcome, and then I'm going to bring Representative Wilhauer on at the same time.
That sounds great. I here in the sunny Southern Command is where I'm at. I was able to, make it home this evening. We just finished dinner, and I have my legislative aide. Where's Ben? Come over here, Ben. He's right here. He's bringing me my paperwork. There you go. Good job, buddy. And made it home in time for dinner and head back really early tomorrow morning. But folks, we're going to cover some legislative priorities, some issues that we're dealing with in Springfield, and really get into the meat of some of the bills that we're going to be talking about and looking at. So welcome aboard.
Yeah, excellent. Blaine, you've had a busy afternoon with the K12 Funding Committee, and while you do a little welcome, I'm going to bring on Representatives Miller and Caucus here. Hopefully everybody will join us momentarily.
Hey, good to
Blaine,
be here, Brad. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, no, good to be here. Unfortunately, I didn't get out as early as Adam today. I had the K12 Appropriations Committee today, and we got the chance to talk to the Illinois State Board of Education and their new state superintendent. And, my line of questioning went so long that they actually canceled the committee after it. So I'm just getting done.
Thank you.
Got a lot of good things on the record there, so we're continuing to fight there. Education is extremely important. I think you'll see as we go through some of these bills here that that reflects in some of our legislative priorities. So glad to share with you tonight.
Excellent. Well, thanks for doing what you do there, and I enjoyed your questioning of the new director of the Illinois State Board of Education. With that, I'm going to bring on the leader of the Illinois Freedom Caucus, Chris Miller, and then we'll go to Dan Caucus.
Well, thank you, Brad, and thank you, the rest of you rascals that joined me. I tell you what, when I was hearing about the conversation before the Education Committee meeting, I was really wanting to pop some popcorn and slip on in there and see what was going to happen, because it sounds like that it was very illuminating. And so, but yeah, our committee ended up being canceled because you guys were so long-winded. But and so I came on home this evening, but they blessed us with like a 9:15 meeting in the morning, so it'll be an early start for me. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about our legislative priorities, and we want to thank you, each and every one of you, for jumping on, and hopefully it'll be informative as well as entertaining. But thank you.
Excellent. Dan Caucus from Decatur, the floor is yours. Oh. Dan, we're not hearing you, Dan.
Yeah.
How's that?
There you go.
There you
go. Thank you, Blaine, for allowing me to come home a little early this evening. It's all good. Yeah, lots of stuff happening. We've got some heater bills that I thought were not very good. It's interesting. I don't know about the rest of you. I've been getting a couple of phone calls from business owners here in my district who are very, very concerned about this paid leave bill that's going to go into effect. I think that's something that we're going to have to try to fight. It's already a law, but we need to get in there and amend that. So that's really about all that we got going on.
Yep, exactly. So, guys, with that, tonight we're going to cover our legislative agenda, and I am going to bring on the person that kind of helps us keep the trains running on time, our state director of the Illinois Freedom Caucus, Colin Mosley. Colin, say hi.
Hey, thanks, Brad. So good to be here tonight with you guys.
Excellent. Well, Colin, we appreciate everything you do for us. And so with that, hey, guys, I'm going to try to tee up this slide set, and here we go. All right, so this is our legislative agenda. We're going to try to get partway through it tonight, and then a week from tonight, we'll come back and finish it up. And as you can see, I don't know, Colin, if you want to kind of tell us about kind of that part, or Chris, kind of what we're all about as far as the Freedom Caucus is concerned. Feel free to elaborate.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be glad to. You know, the Freedom Caucus is the conservative North Star of the General Assembly. And so, as the slide says, a governing priority of our legislation is to follow this statement, which is to support a culture of life, to oppose the radical abortion politics of Illinois Democrats, to fight for our God-given constitutional rights, including the right to bear arms. You know, in Illinois, in the General Assembly, as the minority, our role is to be loud, to be impactful and informative, to call out the problems, and then, as you're going to hear tonight, to offer the solutions and the better ideas to those problems. So that's what we are using as the guiding point of our agenda tonight.
Excellent, excellent. And with that, let's just go right into our next slide, guys. This is going to be where we're going to kick off talking about supporting educational freedom. I'm going to drop off the screen momentarily. I'll be here in the background, and you guys feel free to kind of discuss this back and forth. Will that be okay?
That'd be great. Who wants to go first?
Come on, Blaine.
Well, I'm happy to talk about one of the bills that I have, HB 1072. And this really kind of surprises me that we even have to have a bill like that, that expands parental access to school board activity. To me, it seems very very unnecessary. But in the culture that we live in, where we have expanded government and this authoritarian idea that the parents shouldn't be involved in the child's education, I guess it makes bills like this needful. But this is a piece of common sense legislation that we shouldn't have to legislate this, but the school board ensures parents and guardians of pupils that are enrolled in the school district to freely to petition the school board and provide public comment at their regular scheduled meeting, having access to certain information, as well as being informed on specific subject matter, have the right to meet with the pupil's teacher at least twice per school year, requires the school board to ensure curriculum and learning materials are posted on the school district's internet website. This is important due to the widespread things that we witnessed during COVID and all the bad curriculum coming down the pike with CRT and cultural teaching standards, etc. And all this does is provide truth, logic, and common sense to parental access to all this information from our schools.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Blaine or Adam, you want to go next?
Sure. House Bill 2184, it's a Freedom of Education Act. I was very proud to file this piece of legislation. And what this does is essentially, it is an anti-critical race theory bill. It applies that teachers cannot teach students to be beholden to specific tenets. Basically, that somebody's beliefs are more superior or not as superior as another person's beliefs, or anything to do with race, color, or creed, having any kind of racism, any kind of different ideologies, and teaching that this wokeification that's going on in the school districts. It's basically telling kids to be critical thinkers and taking all of the identity politics out of the classroom. So whenever you see, state of Illinois, other states throughout the union, having conversations with our kids, having privilege walks, telling our children that because something that happened 150 years in the past, that they're responsible for that. And you want kids to get along with each other. We want kids to grow up and be critical thinkers. And with all the CRT, with everything that's being pushed in our public school system, they're teaching them this divisiveness rather than basic arithmetic and teaching them how to read. So the Freedom of Education Act is really a step in the right direction, and I'm very proud to file this piece of legislation. We'll keep working on it.
So Adam, I mean, what we're seeing, and you have kids in school, and so does Blaine. We have adults, teachers, who are espousing a philosophy that is having a real influence on our kids, which will have a long-term effect. And your bill is going to address that, I hope, right?
Oh, absolutely. It does. It lays out 4 specific requirements that are, and so folks, check it out, 2184. You go to section 10 and you'll be able to see exactly how it lays out. It's very specific to what should not be taught in our school systems. And in my area, hey, we've got a great school system. I'm down in Teutopolis, and our school system is just top notch. They do an outstanding job, and this wokeification has not hit our area yet. So I'm very happy that it hasn't. But in other parts of the state, we have kids that are being subject to this. You look at the Chicago Teachers Union, what's being pushed up there, and it's not necessarily a union. It's a political party. It's the woke ideology perpetuated by the radical left being pushed onto our kids. So yes, Dan, this bill takes care of that particular issue.
Blaine, do you want to go ahead with 1142?
Yeah. House Bill 1142 is actually something that I carried over from last cycle. It's a bill that I ran during COVID, because of the lack of in-person learning there. But, all the evidence, all the data, everybody agrees that in-person learning is the best, most effective way that students learn. So we need to put a process in place that prioritizes that and gives parents options when in-person learning is not provided in their school district. This bill just simply says that if your local school district is not providing an option for full-time in-person learning, then parents have the options. Parents or guardians have the option to take the state level funding for that child and put them in a school that is providing that, whether it be public or private. I actually got a hearing on this bill in the last General Assembly during the height of COVID, and it was pretty wild. People laid it pretty far out there. You could really see where people stood when the rubber hits the road, whether they're standing with the teachers union and special interest, or they're standing for what's in the best interest of the kids. It was a very interesting committee. I think Dan was on there with me, and maybe some other. But I actually had, I don't know if I should say this out loud or not, but I actually had Paul Vallis come and testify for me in favor of this. So, that was pretty interesting, but it went down, but we're back with it. So still think it's important.
Excellent, Blaine. I'm going to flip to the next slide here. And so, Chris, it looks like you've got a education savings account here.
Yeah, I mean, this like I say, this is another just a common sense approach to give parents options. It creates a education savings account for parents to use any way they want to in educating their kids, and it's just common sense. And roll up your sleeves and get it done. Put the students first and give them the best opportunity, and their parents the best opportunity to choose the route that they would want to take to educate the next generation of patriots here in the state of Illinois.
Excellent. And the bill I've got is 3825, and this is kind of an interesting bill. We know that teachers and employees of a school district can ask for a waiver. So they may live in a different school district, but if they then where they teach or where they work, and if they have school age kids, they can ask for a waiver to bring their family members into that school district without additional tuitional costs. And I just think the process that parents have to go through to get into a different school district if they live close to the property or the school district line is quite cumbersome. And so I've offered this up, that if you live within a quarter of a mile of the district line, that you would have the same opportunity for a waiver that the teachers and the employees of that school district have. I think this is just kind of a common sense approach to give folks, the property owners, the property taxpayers, give them an opportunity to have an opportunity to bring their kids into that school district. You know, a lot of parents may work in that town or have a business in that town. And so I think this is just a good piece of legislation. Hopefully, you know, it didn't get a hearing before we had committee deadline like many of our bills did, but we still want to continue to talk about it. And hopefully we'll all be able to get subject matter hearings on them yet this spring. So that's kind of my bill. Blaine, you've got a couple up here on this slides next.
Yeah, hey, Brad, why just a quarter of a mile? Let's just do open enrollment altogether. Let's separate the bad in this. You know, we still pay our property taxes in our local districts, but let's let kids go wherever makes sense for them. You know, another thing that annoys me about that waiver process on that, you know, these local schools, I don't know if it has so much to do with the waivers, but it just reminded me of this. These local schools have the option and the opportunity to let homeschool kids play sports in the district that they live in, and they pay taxes. So many times that doesn't happen. They don't allow that, and I think that's something that should be addressed also.
Right, no doubt.
My little rant.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, and you know, again, I think like our Democrat colleagues, they kind of practice incrementalism, right? So whether it's a quarter mile today or whatever, but I think this kind of needs to be discussed when we talk about school choice and the things that you touched on. Give kids the opportunity, give parents the opportunity to put their kid where they're going to get best educated. And I think competition will make for a better overall product. You know, competition never hurts anybody.
One of the things that seems like that we've lost our way on is that these are public institutions. They're community units by definition, and they are put there to serve the public where they reside. And for some reason, they've got the idea that we're there to serve them rather than them being there to serve us. And it just seems really strange to me. Like Blaine mentioned, the idea that kids that live in that district can't access the school where to provide a service to them that they paid for. It just seems It seems really counterproductive.
Right, exactly. Blaine, you got a couple of interesting bills here, 1642 and 1643. Why don't you discuss them, and then we'll move on to another important topic.
Yeah, 1642 is the Invest in Kids, the Opportunity Scholarship. It was one of the only good things that Bruce Rauner actually got across the finish line. This was an important part of the evidence-based funding formula to get some bipartisanship on this. What it does is it gives opportunity scholarships to people who can't afford it otherwise to go to a private school, especially in places where schools are failing, but they don't necessarily have to be in places where schools are failing. But this program is the only school choice program that we have in the state of Illinois. It's crosshairs of Governor Pritzker since he first ran for governor. Every budget that he has proposed up until this year has axed this program, but fortunately, there's been enough bipartisan pushback to keep this thing alive, keep it going. The problem is there's no certainty in it when it's a year by year deal. Obviously high school is 4 years long. So, if schools are going to accept people, they want a level of certainty to this program. What this bill does is it makes that program permanent. And it increases the investment threshold. That's a good thing. That's another really good thing about it. This is all privately funded. It's private donations. You can make a donation and you get a 75% tax credit on that donation for private individuals or businesses or whoever. And you can donate it to whatever school that you want that's doing this. We want to make that 100%. There's no reason not to do that. And we want to remove the sunset. We want to make this thing permanent. Great program. 20,000 people at last check on the waiting list on this program. We need to make it permanent. The governor said when he's running for office, he had an epiphany this fall that he now supports this program. So we're to put his money where his.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'm sorry.
And yeah.
Well, I was going to say
ahead,
this
Brian.
next bill
Sorry.
seems kind of interesting, especially saying prioritizes Illinois student admission to the U of I. I would have thought that would have been a high priority of theirs to begin with.
Well, you would think that the University of Illinois would be prioritizing Illinois students to go to school. It is the only land grant university in the state of Illinois, but unfortunately, there are a lot of kids that qualify academically to go to the University of Illinois, and they're not getting in there. And the reason, when you boil it all down, the reason they're not getting in there is just money. In-state tuition in the state of Illinois is out of control. It's very high, but I think in-state tuition at U of I is somewhere 12 to 15,000, which is absurd. I think down in the Sun Belt and the SEC, they're doing 6,500, 6,000, and even less down there. But here's the deal: Illinois students. Out-of-state tuition at times almost doubles that, so they're making more money on students from out of state to come to Illinois. But where they're really making bank is with the international students. The international students can be up to 50,000 per year for tuition. So this is a money grab by the University of Illinois, and there's a at the end of the day, we should be prioritizing our students. The governor said that he wants wants our talent to stay in Illinois. What better place to start than, letting them into the flagship state university? So we just want to we want to put that threshold at 90%. The University of Texas has done that. It's worked well for them down there. The University of North Carolina has something similar, so we just think that we should be competing at the highest level.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, guys, let's move on to the next slide. I'm sorry if you have a comment. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was looking at the tuition for Illinois resident an Illinois resident tuition, if you can get into the U of I, is anywhere from $17,500 to $22,800. Wow. $17,500 to $27,000. So it's roughly $18,000 to $23,000, I guess, depending on what part of the school you're going to. That's
ridiculous.
Yeah. And they have like a $3 billion endowment fund, like one of the largest endowment funds of any school in the country.
But that's another thing, Dan. They won't be transparent about their endowments or, all of that private money and all that good stuff they got and where it's, that's kind of important, especially if it's coming from like China.
Yeah.
And I haven't been on the Approach Higher Ed committee for a while, but I think the last check, I think the taxpayers were putting $700 or $800 million a year into the U of I systems. I'm not sure if that's the number it is today, but the last I knew it was $700 to $800 million that they were pouring into it, and to not prioritize Illinois students, that's just wrong.
Yeah, the chancellor at U of I was actually asked about this particular legislation because they oppose it vehemently, obviously. And we don't support something like that. That's too restrictive.
All right, guys, before we move on, is there any last comments on any of these education bills we've discussed?
Nope.
If not, see if we can get the next slide to come up. Protecting the Second Amendment. A lot of FOID repeal bills here. What's going? Who wants to speak to any of the FOID repeal bills? I suppose they kind of speak to themselves, but or for the kind of self-explanatory. But you guys want to weigh in on any of that?
Void the FOID. The FOID is unconstitutional.
Right.
That's right.
And we're hoping that with this breach that they've done right now, that the judicial system will actually take that up too, because it's not going in the legislature, unfortunately.
Right, exactly. My bill 3840 basically prevents any banks or financial institutions from disclosing purchasing records of any firearms or ammunition to anyone. I think this is just another good common sense bill. Now, the judicial branch is exempt from that, so if they need access to those records, they would be exempt of that. But again, I think this is a good common sense thing, and I think we're hopefully going to see some more discussion about that. Colin, do you want to discuss? I know Representative Freeze couldn't be on with us tonight. Do you want to discuss his HB 1600?
Yeah, sure. And Representative Freeze is a great legislator. This is a great bill from him. And essentially what this does is protects firearm ownership and possession for people who are in a rental property, a temporary dwelling unit, a vehicle in a parking area of common interest, community association, things like that. The idea is to further unrestrict, concealed carry and firearm ownership rights in the state of Illinois, where it's continually overregulated. So this bill, again, as has been said many times tonight, is a common sense bill talking about freeing up our Second Amendment in places that are very, very commonly community accessible, or again, in a temporary dwelling unit like a rental property or things like that.
Excellent. Any other thoughts or questions, comments on this slide before we move on to the next one? We got a few bills here. I think of Adam Niemerg's coming up next, but any more questions or comments about any of these before we move to the next slide? All right. And I am going to drop off, and I'm going to let Adam Niemerg speak to his bills.
Thanks, Brad. Really, we talk about the FOID card. It's ultimately, as Blaine said, void the FOID is an unconstitutional requirement. And there's a lot of states that are going in the right direction when it comes to the Second Amendment. We had National Association of Gun Rights, Brandon Bordeaux, on several weeks ago to talk about the Second Amendment. And he referred to the fact that when he started back in 2014, I believe there were about 4 states that had constitutional carry. Now they're in the low 20s because they keep pushing. Organizations like Young Americans for Liberty keep pushing. Organizations like National Association for Gun Rights. True, liberty-minded organizations that understand what it means to really put our Second Amendment first. And you see lower FOID age requirements, 2179, allow for concealed carry on colleges, universities. And this is something that I think is kind of a no-brainer, really. You send your son or your daughter off to university, and you're wanting them to be protected, right? Yet their constitutional carry not constitutional. Their concealed carry would not translate over to those universities as it really should. It's where you would think where they're most vulnerable, right? That's when you would think that they would have their right to keep and bear arms. So that's just, to me, it's just a no-brainer. But when it comes to pushing for constitutional carry, other states are really doing great work on the Second Amendment. And unfortunately, as we saw with the unconstitutional gun grab that came through in lame duck, we're going in the opposite direction. But much like the other issues that we talk about on school choice, on the Second Amendment, the issues that we were talking about for years and years and years that were not mainstream. We were called right-wing Republicans in the establishment even attacked us. But now you look at the National Education Association, you look at the IEA, you look at what they're proponents of and what they're pushing in schools. When you look at what's happening with our Second Amendment, you can really see that we were right all along. We were right on the constitutional carry. We were right on the school choice. And these are becoming mainstream ideas when it comes to our Second Amendment, when it comes to everything else that we've been talking about over the years. So, yes, I've got a lot of bills reining back the FOID card, but obviously it's all about repealing the FOID card and not repealing, getting it out of the road and then moving towards constitutional carry.
I think there's also a lawsuit attacking the FOID card. We're also seeing federal lawsuits in the Southern District have now picked up a whole different attack on suppressors, which has been declared constitutional in another court. Texas just had a case where the red flag laws are being challenged, and they have, I think, a federal judge has said that if you're not in court represented by legal counsel, they can't take your firearms. This whole thing is, I think, is going to unravel in Illinois, and John Bosch and some of the other folks are being, I think, they're being very outspoken in that they've gone too far, they pushed too far, and when the courts do get involved and make some determinations, we'll all be a lot better off for it. So we're thankful for everybody that's pushing this. I'm involved in another case on a different level. But I think that when it's all said and done, the Democrats in Illinois are going to be very sorry that they stirred up a hornet's nest. We've attracted attention from all over the country, Second Amendment rights people, all over, and I think they're bringing the big guns in, and I think this will be a very defining moment. And I don't think it's going to take all that long.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And sorry, Brad.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I think too, it's important to recognize that, especially our Freedom Caucus members, we've caught on to the game in Springfield. We know that the steps that they have are restriction and regulation, and then it's registration, and then it's confiscation. And we're here to say that that's not going to work for us here in Illinois.
Exactly right. Guys, if there's nothing else to discuss on this, we're going to get into the next slide, if that's okay. Election integrity. Looks like the Blaine Wilhauer event on this slide. Blaine? Looks like you got 3 bills, Blaine. Ballot audits, ballot tracking, and deceased voter roll cleaning.
I've got 3 bills that unfortunately are languishing in the ethics, so-called ethics. Come on now. Yeah, that's another thing that annoys me. We're always talking about ethic reforms in the state of Illinois. How about some anti-corruption measures? All right, let's not be nice about this. Let's be real about this. But yeah, basically these are bills that unfortunately aren't being heard. The only bills that get heard, I'm on that committee here in Springfield. I've been on it since the advent of the committee, and the only thing that we've done are watered down half measures. We always eyes on election integrity and requiring ethical behavior from government officials. But that's what we do here in the state of Illinois. So basically, we're just wanting to make sure that we're securing our votes. They've certainly made it a lot easier to kind of game the system on these elections. So we want to make sure that we got ballot integrity, that we're actually matching, signatures to ballots, not just to envelopes, for an example, which we had going on in Northern Illinois here. And, it would be pretty easy to work in conjunction with the Postal Service and some other entities to basically do sweeps on these voter rolls. Let's remove the voters that died that we know have died from our voters rolls, and let's do that every year. That wouldn't be very complicated to do. Those are some simple steps that would secure our vote and help people to be more comfortable with our electoral in this state. But unfortunately, that's not happening.
Guys, any thoughts on this slide before we move to the next? I mean, you're probably hearing the same stuff I'm hearing. People just kind of thought these things should be in place to guarantee, solid elections, and they're not there. And this is important stuff.
Odd, isn't it? I mean, when you, that's kind of a hard thing to think about, that we're not doing some of these things automatically.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's, instead of talking about voter integrity and making sure that the voting is secure and fair, we're talking about being able to drive up to a polling place and logging in on your phone and voting. We're talking, we've already in the past set up polling places in jails, which if you paid attention to the mayoral race in Chicago, they were lining prisoners up to go vote. And, if you didn't vote for the right person, you might have your privileges affected. It tells you the corruption, the level of corruption that the Democrats are willing to tolerate and what they'll stoop to try to gain favor in the electoral process. And we're going to keep going. And Blaine's onto something, and we've just got to keep pounding the table, and hopefully the folks that are paying attention will make some noise and start contacting other legislators and pushing some of these issues to help us get a hearing on them.
Right. Exactly. Guys, here's a few more bills that we've got on election integrity. I see Blaine dropped off momentarily. Colin, you got any comments on Will Howard's? There's Blaine back.
Really, really simple. It's just requiring an ID to vote. I mean, we require an ID for almost everything else. So, why not require it for that? It's just another common sense measure. When you pull voter ID, it's through the roof here, but the people that are controlling the process don't want that because they don't really want to secure these things very much.
Right. And my bill 3831, just some more kind of proof of who you are, just showing a date of birth if you're a grace period voter. And so again, kind of common sense, simple stuff, but you've heard us talk about common sense before in Springfield. Chris, you got a couple bills here. If you can explain those briefly to kind of keep rolling.
The biggest thing is that we have to restore confidence in the election process. And it seems like that the Democrats continually want to implement bills that are going to make it easier for people to cheat and bring no integrity to the table at the same time. But I know and that's what the couple of bills that I have here are just, like I said, we've heard it said many times in this conversation, is just a common sense thing. One thing particular is that the higher ed students to vote in their home district and not in their college district. We have remote voting, we have vote by mail, and we have technology, and we have same day registration. So it seems to me that it would be very easy to implement a process in these college towns where when the student goes to the poll, he lets them know where he's from, and then they print off a ballot from his home area, and he votes for people where he actually is represented and has skin in the game. Because especially in Champaign County, we have really seen a level of incompetence that's unimaginable exist at the county level just because the students are voting for people that they have no idea who they are, what they represent, what their values are. And it's time to change those things with technology and the opportunities we have to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Gentlemen, before we move on to our next slide, is there any thoughts here anymore about any of the voter ID stuff or the election integrity bills? If not, let's go on to the next slide. Fighting the woke agenda in schools. The goal here, you can kind of read that, take a sustained and relentless interest in ensuring that our children are not subject to the radical gender theories masquerading as science. Trust the science. Chris, you've got a bill, and then maybe Colin, if you can speak to David's bill, and I think Adam had to jump off there. So, yeah.
Well, my bill 1071 is extremely simple because most of the time the old cliche, follow the money and you find the answers, and money is a mother's milk for all these things and these bad ideas. And so if you remove the state funding from schools with same-sex bathroom, same-sex locker rooms, and the transgender sport team to protect women's sports, all of these things go away and forever when you don't fund them. So we control this purse string, so we need to get this done.
Yeah, exactly. Colin, I'll let you close up on the last two bills.
Sure. Well, and just to speak to Chris's bill real quick, we've talked about earlier our failed education system in the state of Illinois and how many kids we have that can't read and write. And so I think continuing to allow tax dollars to flow to these indoctrination factories is further failing our students. And so to expand on Representative Friese's bill, House Bill 1562, which requires biological gender sports teams, this is, talk about Women's History Month. Isn't it anti-woman to allow a biological man to play on a woman's sports team? I mean, these people can't define what man or woman is, and yet they want to tokenize and throw these virtue signaling feel good things out there. So Friese's bill simply just requires that any interscholastic activities, high school, junior high sports teams, organizations, that it would be defined as male, female, or co-ed. There are some co-ed activities out there. And it lays out definitions for what a man and a woman is, which most of the General Assembly has trouble defining. So, and then finally, House Bill 2183, Adam Niemerk has this bill. It's the Campus Free Speech Act. Essentially, this requires the governing board of a higher education institution, just like the U of I we discussed earlier, to have policies governing free expression, that the institution protects the fundamental and constitutional right of all students and faculty to have freedom of expression and to broadcast and speak, write, listen, challenge, whatever, any issue within reason. It lays out the requirements also to have neutral treatment and in the selection of students, neutral treatment in grading and characterizing students, because oftentimes if you disagree with your professor, then you're kind of labeled as something, and it reflects that later on. So Adam's bill codifies protections for free speech protection on campuses.
Excellent. And gentlemen, and to our viewers out there, that takes us about halfway through our legislative agenda. And so hopefully next Tuesday, depending on how things go in Springfield over the next week, we'll give you the second half of our agenda, and we'll have updates of what's going on in Springfield. So with that, hey, Blaine, why don't we start with you as you want to close us out with, we head into lightning round here, kind of give us some closing comments, what's happening in your neighborhood. And then, so Blaine, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Brad, and thanks to everybody for being here tonight and participating in this. And always thank you for supporting us. You haven't seen a lot happening on the floor of the House yet. That's probably going to start changing here in the next week or so, and moving through April and into May, you're going to see us on the floor more. But this group has been fighting it out in committee. We've been raising important questions. We raise a lot of important questions that, probably wouldn't be raised were it not for us out there. So we're going to continue to fight, continue to battle, and continue to make sure that you know what's going on in Springfield, because that's the catalyst for change.
Yeah, exactly. Dan, any closing comments from Macon County?
Thanks. Well, first of all, it's tonight probably the first night that it's actually been light out at 7 o'clock. we're operating in daylight. Thank you very much. We had a huge job fair here today. Had over 200 folks show up. So we're hoping that everybody that wants a job, needs a job, got a job. Had 70 recruiters or companies recruiting today. Things are going well in Springfield because we're there fighting for you, and we're just we'll continue to push back. We need your help, everybody. Let us know what's on your mind, because that's where we get a lot of our good ideas. But we look forward to next week. We get the other half of our agenda out, and we're going to just keep pushing and pushing and pushing.
Exactly right. Chris, you're the chairman. Any closing thoughts before we wrap it up tonight from the chairman of the Freedom Caucus?
Well, thank you all for jumping on here this evening. We covered a lot of turf tonight and a lot of important issues, but one of the things that you could help us with is to like and share information. Go to our pages and like them on the various Facebook pages and the Freedom Caucus Facebook page. And, you can always go to the donate button and click as many times as you want to, because we need your help to get our message out. It's always a problem, as Brad always mentions. The algorithmic gods are constantly torturing us and hot on our trail. So, but we seriously need your help, and we thank you for all the support you've given us, and for the helpful comments that people that are entering on the live screen is very helpful. But like Dan said, we will continue to be those guys that are running towards the gunfire. We're going to be the guys that are running into the burning building, and we're going to illuminate everything that's going on in Springfield, and you can watch the cockroaches run to the corners.
Exactly. Chris, thanks for that. Hey, Colin, there was a comment. I don't know if you've watched this today. Do you have any thoughts on the Safety Act? What happened? Were you watching that today? I know there was a hearing on that. Do you have any comments on that, or can we get back to people on what happened there with the Safety Act today?
I don't have anything comprehensive, but we will have it out tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah. I know there was a court hearing. There were some opening arguments, and
Yes.
That's about all we really know right this second. All right. With that, everyone, thank you all for joining us tonight. And Colin, thanks for your appearance and helping us through the murkiness. And hopefully with your appearance tonight, that will do us really well with the big tech overlords and the algorithmic gods to keep us blasting out into the Ethernet and all kinds of new places. So with that, gentlemen, if there's nothing else, we're going to head home. Thank you, guys.